Whatever they were afraid of at the moment. I didn't go nowhere, though. My parents never really had anything that you could call religion, I guess. Last week, Johnny Depp attended a Hollywood function, but no one knew who he was. The man who spent 20 years portraying Jack Sparrow had a totally different appearance. He had nearly lost half of his body weight, going from 230 pounds to 130, and it has nothing to do with exercise or a healthy diet. Insiders in Hollywood are speculating on what actually transpired over those months that went by. According to some, it saved his life. Some fear it's ruining him. His metamorphosis is more drastic in reality than it is in rumors. On June 9, 1963, Johnny Depp was born in Owensboro, Kentucky. Out of the 4 children, he was the youngest. John Christopher Depp, his father, worked as a civil engineer. Betty Sue Palmer, his mother, worked as a waitress before becoming a stay-at-home mom. The family never spent much time in one location. They were constantly moving, and Johnny never felt completely at home. For Johnny, growing up was difficult. His mother was extremely irritable. Without warning, she would hurl objects at him and his siblings. When she entered a room, Johnny learned to duck and brace himself. The majority of her days were stressful, despite her occasional kindness. Although Johnny's father was quiet and kind, he was unable to shield his kids from Betty Sue's rage. The tension was exacerbated by the continual traveling. According to Johnny, they may have moved 40 times before he was 15. They relocated to Miramar, Florida, when he was 7 years old. For almost a year, the family remained in a motel, and Johnny felt more alone than ever. He found solace in music. Johnny's mother gave him a guitar when he was 12, and he played it for hours on end as a way to decompress. By the age of 12, Johnny was already abusing drugs, alcohol, and smoking. School life was also a misery. He was teased by other children for being weird and odd. The anxiety at home was constant. In an attempt to feel better, Johnny started injuring himself and using his mother's nerve medications. His drug use grew over time. It was how he dealt with the loneliness and pain that accompanied him everywhere. Johnny's parents eventually got divorced when he was 15 years old. He was broken by the split. He had to travel to his father's office every week to pick up child support checks because his mother had fallen into a deep melancholy. It was embarrassing. He was also left to care for his siblings and mother. He was no longer helped by school either. He made the decision to drop out of Miramar High School at the age of 16 in order to pursue his musical ambitions. The principal urged him to go pursue his goal when he attempted to return after 2 weeks. Johnny only needed to hear that. He began performing with a group known as the Kids. They frequently slept in a friend's 1967 Chevy Impala and had very little money. They performed at any show they could find, and even served as opening acts for well-known acts like Iggy Pop, the B-52s, and Talking Heads. They were constantly broke, even with the thrilling shows. In an effort to stay afloat, Johnny and the band even modeled for local newspapers to earn extra money. Johnny and the band departed Florida for Los Angeles in December 1983. They changed their name to Six Gun Method in the hopes of landing a record deal. There, life was even more difficult. To make ends meet, the band slept on floors, shared small flats, and Johnny grabbed a job selling ballpoint pens. The music industry was difficult, and they were never signed to a record deal. In the same year, Johnny wed makeup artist Lori Ann Allison, who was also the band's bassist's sister. Lori stood with him during the entire ordeal. Despite their lack of wealth, she had contacts that would permanently alter his life. Nicolas Cage, who was already establishing himself with movies like Valley Girl and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, was introduced to Depp through Lori. Depp and Cage grew close quite fast. Playing Monopoly and discussing movies, they would spend time together in Cage's apartment. Cage once challenged Depp, "Why don't you try acting?" And Depp dismissed the question with a laugh. "The words, I can't act," he said. But Cage kept pushing him. "Maybe you are one and don't know it," said Cage. Depp's agent, Eileen Feldman, sent him to his first audition after Cage introduced him to her. That simple suggestion was the spark that changed everything. Depp never considered a career in acting. Depp stated in a trial decades later, "I was a musician and didn't want to be an actor, but they were going to pay me $12.84 a week. Because of Laurie's relationship with Cage and Cage's faith in him, Depp ended himself sitting in front of Wes Craven to read for a while. I'd never seen that kind of money. In A Nightmare on Elm Street, Glenn Lance played that role. Depp attended the audition solely to encourage a buddy who was interested in the part. Depp was a first-time actor. At first, Craven showed no interest. Depp didn't appear like an actor. In his opinion, we're giants. However, after seeing Depp's headshot, Craven's teenage daughter told her father that he was dreamy, which was precisely what Glenn wanted. Taking a chance, Craven cast Depp in the role. The weekly salary of $12.84 was more than Depp had ever received. It was his very first movie. It had a meager $1.8 million budget. But in the end, it became a horror classic and earned over $57 million worldwide. Depp became famous for his portrayal of Glenn being sucked into his bed and then exploding into a bloody geyser. It was one of the hardest scenes to film and one of the most horrifying deaths in horror history. The crew constructed a spinning set to give the impression that blood was spraying up to the ceiling in order to shoot it. The scene was filled with 500 gallons of synthetic blood. Sparks flew when it hit the lights. The room became unmanageable. It was memorable, messy, and hazardous. Depp's career was irreversibly altered by that one scene. It was well received by audiences, and Hollywood began to take notice. It was more complicated in his private life. Despite getting married in December 1983, Depp and Laurie Ann Allison were already divorced in 1985. Despite their brief 2-year relationship ending, Laurie continued to stand by him. She had arranged his first audition and presented him to Nicolas Cage. Depp always admitted that she was the reason his career started. Depp wasn't certain acting was for him even after Elm Street. He continued to play the guitar in the hopes of becoming a musician. In order to make ends meet, he took on menial tasks in Platoon and Private Resort. However, he was chosen to play Tom Hansen on 21 in 1987. He was a teenage idol on Jump Street all of a sudden. He went from unknown to overnight stardom because of the role. But getting there wasn't easy. Jeff Jagger was initially chosen for the role by the producers. However, they were dissatisfied after filming the pilot. They required somebody who could convince viewers that the role was real. In addition to not being their first pick, Depp wasn't certain he wanted to work in television. He refused to even read the script at first. He was afraid of being locked into a long-term TV contract. Nevertheless, they persuaded him to perform the pilot, and his presence was electrifying as soon as the cameras started rolling. Teenagers who watched the show were moved by the concept of undercover police officers entering high schools. Depp's visage was all over 21 Jump Street, which became Fox's first major hit almost immediately. Millions of people tuned in each week. He was featured prominently on magazine covers. A truckload of fan letters arrived. It happened quickly and was a dizzying sort of stardom. Behind the scenes, however, Depp was worn out. It was a demanding timetable. He was exhausted from working 15-hour days. Though he felt like a stranger to himself, the public believed they knew him as Hansen, the somber, sulky police officer. It started to feel like a prison role. Depp was depressed after filming 102 episodes over 4 seasons. Expectations never ceased, nor did the attention. He was asked by producers to conduct public service announcements urging children to continue their education. Given that he had also dropped out of school, Depp detested the hypocrisy of this. Depp became increasingly disillusioned with the show's true message. The concept of undercover cops in school seemed inappropriate to him, almost like propaganda. Furthermore, Depp was unable to support the superficial ways in which many writers addressed weighty issues, like racism and violence. He turned down $45,000 per episode, a fortune at the time, and started refusing to make programs that went against his convictions, because he felt he couldn't participate because of his conscience. Depp began to rebel on the set as his aggravation mounted. To keep the work interesting, he would invent lines or come up with absurd storylines. His personal life also suffered off-screen. He felt more stuck than ever after his relationship with actress Cherlyn Fenn ended. He became vocal by the end of his deal of flow. He declared in an interview with the Los Angeles Times that he would never again work in television. "There's not enough money in Los Angeles," he stated, adding, I'd rather pump petrol. Never pump petrol. Never. Depp referred to himself as a puppet, and despite the fact that the show had made him famous, he no longer wanted to play that role, so intent on leaving that he even destroyed his trailer in the hopes that Fox would fire him. But they needed him too much. Depp was only let go at the end of the 4th season after Tim Burton offered him the lead in Edward Scissorhands. Resigning from the show was a risky decision, but Depp felt it was the right one because his face was its biggest draw and the show was still wildly popular. He was working with top directors like Tim Burton and John Waters almost immediately, proving to viewers that he was more than just a teenage heartthrob. Edward Scissorhands was more than just a movie when it came out on December 14, 1990. In the meantime, 21 Jump Street continued without him for a 5th season, but it didn't last. Ratings plummeted, and the series was quickly canceled, confirming what everyone already knew. For Tim Burton, who had just made Batman in 1989 and was at the height of his career, this new film was different, personal, strange, and full of heart. Burton immediately connected with Johnny Depp, best known for the television series 21 Jump Street, and he would later say that Depp was like him, someone who had grown up feeling like an outsider. It was the beginning of one of Hollywood's most renowned collaborations. After playing a teen idol for a long time, Depp decided to play Edward Scissorhands, a shy and gentle character with scissors for hands. He beat out notable actors like Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, and even Michael Jackson for the role, saying that the writing was beautiful, the character was beautiful, Edward was me, and the story held a special place in his heart. Inspired by his own suburban Burbank childhood, Burton wrote Edward Scissorhands as a sort of dark fairy tale, with Caroline Thompson writing the script and Danny Elfman writing the eerie soundtrack. The film, which cost $20 million to make but earned more than 4 times that amount, won a BAFTA award for Best Production Design and was nominated for both the Oscars and Saturn Awards. The part changed everything, but Depp was terrified during the shoot, feeling as though he might be fired at any time. Burton would practice with everyone but him, and Depp believed this meant he was performing poorly. The heavy scissor hands made every move awkward, and Edward hardly spoke, so Depp had to use his face and body to tell the story. Depp received his first Golden Globe nomination, and people started to see him as a serious actor. I actually doubted my own abilities, he later remarked, but Edward Scissorhands proved he was more than a pretty face. Depp was full of self-doubt. His subtle, soft performance revealed a depth never previously witnessed. Hollywood paid attention. His work was described by critics as forceful and nuanced. The odd romance, the suburban humor, and the character's melancholy beauty were all adored by the audience. That achievement was only the beginning. In 1994, Depp and Burton collaborated once more on EDD, a black and white homage to a bad director who had a passion for filmmaking. The movie won 2 Oscars, including one for Martin Landau's portrayal of B.A. Lugos, and Depp played Wood with a blend of humor and pathos. Ed Wood is regarded by many as one of Burton's greatest. Depp and Burton resumed their collaboration on Sleepy Hollow in 1999. It was a frightening adaptation of the well-known Ichabod Crane story that was released on November 19, 1999. Crane was portrayed by Depp as a cautious but astute investigator. Because of its eerie sets, the movie made $27 million and took home an Oscar. Depp once again demonstrated that he enjoyed taking chances by receiving accolades for his blend of humor and terror. No one anticipated the arrival of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl in theaters in July 2003. Disney had taken a significant chance. It was believed that the pirate genre was extinct. Most people thought this movie would fail because the last big pirate film, Cutthroat Island, 1995, had flopped so horribly. However, everyone was caught off guard by what transpired next. The Curse of the Black Pearl earned $46.6 million in the United States on its first weekend of release. It broke the box office record set by Disney in July, globally. It became the 4th most grossing film of 2003 with $654 million. Johnny Depp was suddenly famous, and he was everywhere as Captain Jack Sparrow. Jack Sparrow was unique. Prior to him, the majority of pirates on movies were either cruel or brave. Sparrow was erratic, endearing, inebriated, and frequently hilarious. Disney executives were concerned about Depp's odd decisions. They believed that his strange demeanor and voice would detract from the film. 1. But he was adored by audiences. He was also adored by critics. Depp was even nominated for a Best Actor Oscar. That was unprecedented for an adventure movie set in the summer. For Halloween, people donned Jack Sparrow costumes. They cited his amusing remarks. Disney produced more films. Over $4. Over $4. $5 billion was made overall from the 5 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. From a well-respected character actor, Depp rose to become one of the most well-known and lucrative actors in the world. He was the highest-paid actor in the world by 2012, according to Guinness World Records. For him, Jack Sparrow had made all the difference. Depp's peculiar inspiration was what gave the persona its unique quality. For Sparrow's rock star demeanor, he turned to Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards. Depp compared the wild and rebellious nature of pirates to that of rock stars. Richards was even persuaded by Depp to portray Jack Sparrow's father in the follow-ups. He then included yet another unexpected influence. He took a cue from the cartoon skunk Pepe Lou, who believed he was a wonderful women guy. For this reason, even when he isn't the most charming person in the room, Sparrow acts and speaks like he is. A unique character was produced by this combination of swagger and unknowing confidence. Even when things were going badly, Jack Sparrow never wavered in his convictions. Sparrow might run between the reins, always surviving by luck, according to a quote from Depp. Mans adored this unpredictability. It was novel and thrilling. It become one of the most recognizable parts in contemporary film, and the money kept coming in. The first film made $654 million, although it cost $140 million to make. The second, Dead Man's Chest, 2006, made almost $1.07 billion, the most of any movie that year, with a $225 million budget. Even Dead Men Tell No Tales 2017, the series' least successful movie, made $794 million globally. Despite having a combined production budget of approximately $1.27 billion, the 5 films brought in $4.05 billion at the box office. By any measure, that is enormous. Depp's income also continued to increase. He earned $10 million on the first movie. He was earning $90 million a film by the 5th one. He made almost $265 million on all 5 films. Depp even made a joke about perhaps receiving too much money. Disney has made a lot of money from theme park rides, video games, and toys. Depp was collaborating with Tim Burton on both films at the same time. They already had a long-standing creative collaboration. They produced Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in 2005, which brought in $474 million globally. For Depp's enigmatic and peculiar portrayal of Willy Wonka was well received by viewers. Then in 2010 came Alice in Wonderland. That one brought in more than $1 billion globally. People continued traveling to see Depp because he was everywhere at once, both on the high seas and in mythical worlds. He also played additional important parts that brought him honors. His portrayal of the kind writer June Barry in Finding Neverland earned him an Oscar nomination in 2004. He was then nominated for another Oscar in 2008 for his portrayal of the shady, vindictive hairdresser in Fleet Street's Demon Barber, Sweeney Todd. Few performers can switch between major blockbusters and serious dramas like Depp did. By the conclusion of this time, Depp had accomplished something that was uncommon in Hollywood. He was producing highly profitable films and winning the admiration of critics. He received 3 Oscar nominations for Best Actor between 2003 and 2010, one each for Sweeney Todd, Barry, and Jack Sparrow. It was unexpected to see someone who was so popular at the box office also win an award. The relationship between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard was never straightforward. They started dating in late 2011 after meeting on the set of The Rum Diary in 2009. Born on June 9, 1963, Depp was 22 years Heard's senior. They were in different worlds, but they moved fast. After becoming engaged in January 2014, they were married in a modest civil ceremony at Depp's house in Los Angeles on February 3, 2015. They celebrated at Depp's own island in the Bahamas a few days later. Gourmet lunches, beach parties, and snorkeling were all appreciated by the guests. Although everything appeared flawless on the outside, tension was already present behind the scenes. Depp and Vanessa Paradis, the mother of his 2 children, had recently broken up. Heard was an emerging talent. Others believed that they were making a big commitment too soon. Soon, that tension was made public. Heard filed for divorce on May 23, 2016, citing irreconcilable differences just 15 months later. The press went into overdrive. Heard asked for spousal support of $50,000 per month. The divorce was finalized in January 2017 after the court rejected it. She pledged to donate the $7 million Depp agreed to pay her to charity. Less than half of that money ever made it to the organizations, according to later accounts. Heard received a restraining order as well. She filed pictures of herself with bruises and accused Depp of physical assault. Depp's team referred to the charges as untrue, and the responding police officers denied seeing any proof of a crime. Nevertheless, the harm was done. The accusations caused a heated debate and went viral in the news. The public continued to be interested in their battle. Heard mentioned suspected abuse tendencies. Depp retaliated in court and denied everything. Dr. Laurel Anderson, their former therapist, even called their arguments mutual abuse. What appeared to be a dazzling Hollywood marriage had devolved into one of the industry's most well-known and poisonous feuds. Depp had a history of alcoholism and drug abuse. He was frequently late to set and accused of having erratic behavior even before he was with Heard. He was the subject of rumors of extensive drinking and pill use, particularly following their split. Depp acknowledged that he had battled with drugs, including opiates and benzodiazepines. Co-workers and friends spoke about a man who was unpredictable. Studios became concerned about his personal issues, which hurt his career. Heard penned an opinion piece for The Washington Post by December 2018. Although she never gave Depp's name, everyone understood who she was referring to. She referred to herself as a well-known person who had endured abuse. Ford endured abuse. Depp almost immediately fell from grace in Hollywood. Despite earning him over $300 million and the franchise's global gross of over $4.05 billion, Disney sacked him from Pirates of the Caribbean. It was the media, not Disney, that told Depp he was fired. In the Warner Brothers' Fantastic Beasts series, he also lost his role as Grindelwald. After he lost a legal case against the Sun in the UK in 2020, the studio requested him to step down. He collected his entire 8-figure compensation despite just having completed one scene for the third picture. But money was not nearly as bad as the devastation. Depp was more marginalized in Hollywood. In 2019, Depp retaliated. He claimed that Heard's op-ed had destroyed his career and filed a $50 million defamation lawsuit against her in the U.S. Heard countered with a $100 million claim of her own. One of the most viewed celebrity trials in history. The trial took place in April 2022. Every second, cameras aired and millions of people watched on social media. From inebriated altercations to startling pictures, every aspect of their poisonous relationship was made public. Following 6 weeks of testimony, a jury found in favor of Depp on June 1, 2022. Heard had lied, they concluded. In addition to $5 million in punitive penalties, which were lowered to $350,000 under state law, they granted Depp $10 million in compensatory damages. For another of her claims, Heard received $2 million. Depp hailed his victory as evidence that he was being honest. Johnny Depp had a life-altering experience between 2023 and 2024 that no one could have predicted. He shed 100 pounds in a single year. His weight dropped from 230 to 130 to 130 pounds. Everyone who followed him was taken aback. However, this wasn't a fast diet. It was a completely different way of living. Depp concentrated on eating healthily and tidied up his meals. He consumed whole foods, such as fruits, vegetables, lean meat, and good fats. He also stopped eating junk food and processed sugar. Every day, he collaborated with chefs and nutritionists. That was just one aspect of it. They also made sure that every meal kept him full and robust. Depp worked out daily as well. He performed yoga, strength training, and running. He felt strong again after the workouts. The way he took care of his mental health, however, was what really transformed him. Depp had endured public conflicts and years of stress. He discovered therapy and meditation during this time. He stayed grounded by talking to someone and setting aside time for himself. According to Depp, it saved his life. He gave everyone another surprise in 2024. Depp's style has changed for a new film called Day Drinker.